Welcome to your weekly whiskey weekend update. This is Top Whiskies. When whiskey news breaks, we fix it. Today, we're talking about a 1926 Macallan, which is expected to fetch up to £700,000 when auctioned in Edinburgh next month. The Campbelltown distillery Springbank, which is going to release 2 new single malt whiskies. A €10 million investment in a new Irish distillery and visitor centre in Dublin, and independent bottler Douglas Lang, and marking the 10th anniversary of their popular Big Pete Islay whiskey expression. Make sure you subscribe for breaking whiskey news every week. First up, we're talking about a 1926 Macallan, which is expected to sell for nearly £700,000. What makes this so special? Well, the label features a drawing by Sir Peter Blake. There were 12 Peter Blake labels that were done and 12 Valerio and Demi labels. And they sell for crazy money. This one is expected to sell for between £500,000 and £700,000. It's meant to taste of dark honey and almost inconceivably sweet, with smooth, luscious hints of dryness and sweet malt. But that's what they say it tastes like. If you spend £700,000 on a whiskey, you're probably not going to actually drink it. For all we know, it might taste like cough syrup. The Blake and Demi bottles have become incredibly collectible. In fact, we've talked about these bottles coming up to auction so many times on our Breaking Whiskey News that I've actually run out of jokes to talk about how ludicrously expensive they are. The highest price fetched so far for a Peter Blake bottle is £750,000. This is second to the Demi bottle, which sold in October for £850,000. And crazy as that is, that's not the most money that's ever been spent for a whiskey bottle. That goes to another Macallan, also a 1926. This sold at Christie's for £1.2 million. And to add insult to injury, the one-of-a-kind drawing by Michael Dillon looks like something my gran would like. Next up, Campbelltown distillery Springbank has put out 2 new single malt whiskies, a 25-year-old aged in ex-sherry and rum casks, and an 11-year-old finished in a Pinot Noir and under its Longrow label. The Springbank 25 is 60% single malt matured in sherry casks and 40% matured in ex-rum casks. They're married together and sold at 26% ABV. There are 1,200 bottles produced, and they're selling for £370 per bottle. The Longrow Red, which might be slightly more in a normal person's price range, is 11 years old and peated. It's just what you get from a lot of the Longrow brands. It was matured for 8 years in ex-bourbon barrels before spending some time getting to know a Pinot Noir. There are a total of 9,000 bottles of Longrow Red that are available, and they're selling for £55 each. Both whiskies will be available from the 15th of February, but the date might be different in different international markets. Springbank, by the way, is the only distillery in Scotland which has 100% of its distillation, distilling, bottling, malting, all done in one place, which is not necessarily relevant to the prices of these new whiskies, but kind of a cool fact. Up next is €10 million being spent on a brand new distillery in Dublin. The Dublin Liberties distillery is now the 3rd Irish distillery to open in Dublin, but will be the 4th Irish whiskey visitor centre in Dublin. You can work that out for yourself. The visitor centre is expected to attract 80,000 visitors annually and features a cocktail bar and offers daily tours to give an up-close and personal view of what modern distilling is like in Ireland. The distillery, which is housed in a renovated 400-year-old building, will be the home of Dubliner and Dublin Liberties Irish whiskies. Global sales of Irish whiskies reached 10.5 million cases in 2018, which is the highest it's been since Prohibition in the 1920s. And while there are 22 Irish distilleries now open and operating on the island, we're seeing a lot more distilleries being built, which is really exciting. In fact, last year there were 923,000 tourists visiting Irish whiskey distillery centers across the country. Jameson also operates a visitor center in Dublin. It's one of the world's leading whiskey attractions, and it's in its former Bow Street distillery. The new Dublin Liberties distillery will play a key role in driving forward growth and educating Irish and overseas visitors about the exciting new opportunities and growing whiskey industry in Ireland. Our last story comes from Douglas Lang, which is marking the anniversary of its Big Pete blended Islay malt expression, which I have to say is one of my favorites. Big Pete 10-year-old celebrates the anniversary of Big Pete, which launched in 2009 as the first in Douglas Lang's remarkable regional malt collection. And I'm not one to usually buy into marketing, but if you haven't tried them, the Douglas Lang Remarkable Malt Whiskey Collection actually is in fact remarkable. And Big Pete 10-year-old is 46% ABV, non-chill filtered, and features a blend of different whiskeys from Islay. It really is fantastic. Back in 2009, the chairman of Douglas Lang thought up the idea of a feisty fisherman promoting the brand, and he became Big Pete. Big Pete continues to grow and develop a loyal following around the world, and this special bottling is a tribute to him. Which is kind of a weird thing to say, because he is a fictional character. It's like having something that's a tribute to Mickey Mouse. Anyway, the whiskey is priced at £65, and there are 11,000 bottles that will be available in the UK, Europe, and Asia. Each bottle is accompanied by a storybook detailing the legend of Big Pete and his whiskey adventures. Perhaps not a storybook to read to your kids before they go to bed. Thank you for watching this week's Weekend Whiskey Update. Remember to subscribe for next week's Weekly Whiskey Update. And stay classy, San Diego.